Rachel Zegler's next move will be on stage in the West End revival of Evita, a career shift that's being spun as a major success. But the reality? It looks more like Hollywood distancing itself from her after Snow White is expected to flop hard at the box office. Studios aren't lining up to cast her in another blockbuster, and it's clear that Disney is already in damage control mode ahead of the film's release. With Snow White nearing its debut, the press surrounding the movie is only getting worse. Instead of excitement, it's headline after headline of controversy. The Daily Mail recently ran a story detailing shocking new claims about the woke Snow White star, while Page 6 cited an insider saying that Zegler is out of control and giving Disney major headaches. According to sources, the studio has no idea how to handle her, as she continues to air her progressive views, stirring further backlash. Zegler first made waves with outspoken political statements after Trump's election, and since then, her unfiltered takes on the industry, classic films, and even fans have turned her into one of the most polarizing young stars in Hollywood. Now, with Snow White expected to crash and burn, it seems like her Hollywood future is hanging by a thread. Rachel Zegler's outspoken activism is coming back to haunt Disney as Snow White nears release. While she was once celebrated for her strong political views, the tide has shifted, and Disney now finds itself in a difficult position. The same activism that likely landed her, the role has now become a liability, as the studio scrambles to salvage a film already facing major backlash. Recent reports reveal that Disney has directly called Zegler and her management, urging her to tone down her public statements, but she refuses to listen. While she was front and center for the film's European premiere, global press was not invited, a major red flag for a movie of this scale. Instead, Zegler was flown to a remote castle in Spain to perform for a select audience of about 100 influencers and families. Notably absent, Gal Gadot, her co-star who plays the evil queen. This wasn't a coincidence. Industry insiders suggest that Disney is deeply concerned about Zegler and Gadot's opposing political views, particularly on the Israel-Palestine conflict. While Gadot has maintained professionalism, Zegler's continued social media presence and activism have reportedly created tension behind the scenes. Further confirming the troubled state of the film, sources indicate that Snow White's London premiere was quietly scrapped in favor of this low-key event, and even the LA premiere has been significantly scaled back. For a $300+ million blockbuster, this lack of high-profile promotion suggests that Disney is cutting its losses and bracing for impact. An insider told the Daily Mail that Disney is already bracing for an anti-woke backlash against Snow White and has drastically reduced its media schedule. Instead of a full-scale press tour, the studio has limited coverage to a handful of carefully controlled events, a clear sign that Disney has little faith in both its star and the movie itself. If Disney truly believed in the film, they would be holding larger press events with a wider range of journalists. Instead, they've opted for a single-digit number of small, closed-door events, with only hand-picked influencers and media outlets allowed access. The goal? To control the narrative as much as possible and ensure that early coverage remains positive. Later this week, the cast will return to the US, with Zegler and Gadot expected to attend a pre-party and screening at LA's El Capitan Theater on March 15th. However, coverage will be limited to photographers and Disney's in-house production team rather than a full media presence. Reports suggest that only influencers will be given access to Rachel and Gal for interviews, a strategic move by Disney to avoid tough questions. But who are these influencers? The article points out that even at the European event, there were no major online personalities present, with most Spanish content creators in attendance boasting only a few thousand followers, rather than millions. This raises a major concern. Who is left to promote Disney's message of diversity, equity, and inclusion? The company seems to be struggling to find influential voices who can generate genuine excitement for the film. In yet another blow to the project, Zegler has reportedly refused to participate in certain key promotional efforts, further complicating Disney's damage control strategy. At this point, it's clear that Disney's biggest problem isn't just the backlash, it's their own mishandling of the entire situation. Disney's Snow White 2025 remake continues to be one of the most controversial live-action adaptations the studio has ever attempted, and it's easy to see why. With a massive $270 million budget, an increasingly negative public reception, and the studio in full-blown panic mode, this film is quickly becoming a textbook case of what happens when Hollywood prioritizes modern political messaging over storytelling. One of the biggest sources of controversy surrounding the film is none other than Rachel Zegler herself, whose past comments about the beloved 1937 classic have not aged well. To put it lightly, in a 2022 interview with Variety, Zegler made it clear that she had zero attachment to the original film, stating, "I was scared of the original version. I think I watched it once and never picked it up again." She also mocked the classic love story between Snow White and Prince Charming, ridiculing the film's central romance as problematic. It was weird that the movie focused on Snow White's love story with the guy who literally stalks her. We didn't do that this time. At the time, Disney seemed fully committed to reworking the entire story, eager to distance itself from what it deemed outdated, problematic storytelling. However, in light of recent audience backlash against forced reboots and agenda-driven narratives, those same comments have now come back to haunt both Zegler and the studio. From classic romance to girl boss feminism, instead of singing the beloved "Someday My Prince Will Come," a song that has been synonymous with Disney's legacy for nearly a century, Zegler introduced a brand new feminist anthem at a European press event, "Waiting on a Wish." The song is meant to reflect the film's modernized take on Snow White, one where the princess is not dreaming of true love. She is not waiting to be saved by a prince. Instead, she is focused on becoming the girl boss she knows she can be. At Disney's D23 Expo, Zegler doubled down on this new direction enthusiastically, telling the audience she's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be. However, this drastic departure from the original fairy tale has only alienated many Disney fans. What was once a beloved story of romance, magic, and adventure is now being rebranded into a blatant social commentary piece, one that so far nobody seems to have asked for. Disney in panic mode, the fallout of woke storytelling. Disney is now reportedly terrified that the constant wave of bad publicity surrounding the film will result in dismal box office numbers. Internally, the company has even admitted that recent failures have forced them to reconsider their approach. Under CEO Bob Iger, Disney has vowed to pull back from its reliance on woke messaging in its films and TV shows, after seeing backlash and box office disappointments with previous projects. However, Snow White was greenlit and cast during the height of Disney's push for diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI initiatives, meaning this movie may still suffer from the reputation that Disney has built over the last few years. The reality is, no matter how much the company tries to course correct now, the damage has already been done. This remake was created under Disney's previous vision, and it now serves as a clear example of what happens when a studio prioritizes activism over storytelling. Rachel Zegler's career nosedive from blockbusters to the West End. While the issue impact on Disney is undeniable, Zegler herself is also facing major career consequences. Once considered an up-and-coming star, Zegler is now experiencing a sharp fall from grace, going from starring in major Hollywood blockbusters to being demoted to smaller projects like West End productions. Some industry insiders speculate that her outspoken nature and controversial comments have made her more of a liability than an asset. In addition to her remarks about Snow White,